It was Monday evening, almost 8:30. I had spent the entire day in my home office, working on a project that still demanded significant effort. After finishing work, I stepped into the dark kitchen, opened the refrigerator, and grabbed my favorite light beer. Peering out of the kitchen window, I saw Joy in the backyard, curled up on our couch next to the fire pit and pool. She was nestled in the corner, legs crossed under her, chatting on her mobile phone. I was about to go out and join her when I noticed her twirling a strand of her light hair with her right hand. It was a gesture I knew very well. She absent-mindedly twisted her hair every time we had intimate conversations. Undoubtedly, it was an unconscious habit that I had admired since we met almost 30 years ago. And this gesture spoke not only of her sexual arousal, it was something much greater. Over the decades of our life together, I had come to think of her habit as a manifestation of our spiritual connection. Every time we were closest, Joy twirled her hair. I often traveled on business and called home every night. When the children were little, I happily spent an hour talking on the phone with my loving wife and kids. There were many times when I knew Joy was twirling her hair with her right hand while we talked. This thought always warmed me from within and made lonely nights away from home quite bearable. I continued to watch Joy through the window. As she talked on the phone, she smiled and even laughed at times. While I watched, there were moments when I could swear Joy was flirting. She was too far away to see the familiar spark in her eyes, but I knew it was there. I noticed how comfortable she was as she spoke, yet still continued to twirl her hair. She was so radiant. She was glowing. My usually quick mind faltered as I realized my wife was talking to someone special, someone too special. For almost 45 exhausting minutes, I watched as my wife engaged in a secret, intimate conversation with someone else. After the conversation finally ended, I saw a dreamy smile appear at the corners of her mouth. I was in a deep, painful trance as I entered the living room, turned on the television, and watched the local baseball team play. Eventually, Joy returned to the house. Seeing me sitting alone in the room, she asked, "Have you finished your work long ago?" "Not long ago." "Why didn't you come out to the backyard with me?" "You were on the phone, and I didn't want to disturb." "Oh, for heaven's sake." "I was talking to Steve. We were making some decisions regarding the Phillips account." As I said, I didn't want to disturb. As we talked, I didn't take my eyes off the game, but I could feel Joy's eyes trying to drill a hole into me. Soon Joy went to the kitchen, but returned a minute later with a glass of wine, sat on the edge of the couch to the right of my armchair, and asked, "What's the score?"
No idea.
Joy smirked. "At least you know who the Sox are playing?" "The Blue Jays." We watched the game for a while until they went to a commercial break, and Joy resumed the conversation. "Let's invite the kids for a barbecue on Saturday." "Sounds good." For the next few minutes, Joy engaged in a one-sided conversation until she finally asked, "Chris, what's wrong?" "Nothing. You're not talking much today. That's not like you." "I have a lot on my mind. Is there anything you'd like to talk about?" "No." The silence lasted for a whole period. When the commercial break resumed, Joy leaped off the couch and with practiced ease pulled a blue V-neck t-shirt over her head. She stood before me in brown shorts, her mature chest spilling out of a white lace bra. A wide smile graced her face as she suggested, "How about we turn off the TV and meet upstairs? I'm sure I can work out your stress." "No thanks, Joy. I'm not in the mood today." Her smile grew wider as she reached between my spread legs and cupped my crotch. "Come on, big boy. Mommy needs you." I looked her in the eye. "What didn't you understand about 'I'm not in the mood today'? What the hell is wrong with you? I'm just trying to be nice." "Joy, you deny me sex at least twice a week. If I turn you down once a year, are you gonna whine like a fucking 4-year-old? Grow up and leave me alone." If her stare could kill, I'd turn into a piece of overcooked pork chop. Joy glared at me in disgust before turning and walking out of the room. For the first time in our marriage, I slept in the guest room. Well, I laid down on the bed in the guest room, and I had planned on it. When the clock in the bedroom struck 3 in the morning, I realized that staying in bed was pointless. So, I got up, took a shower in the old childhood bathroom, and sneaked into the main bedroom for my clothes. The first part of my plan was straightforward. Before heading out to work, I loaded the tracking app onto Joy's personal and work phones and synced them with my laptop and iPhone. I arrived at work with 2 large cups of coffee and a headache. Surprisingly, the day turned out to be quite productive. It was crucial for me to put the finishing touches on my presentation before leaving early the next morning for a short 2-day trip. Tuesday night at home was more than chilly. I slept in my own bed, but there was very little conversation and no intimacy between Joy and me. The next morning, I left home early. It was the second day in a row, but this time I headed to the airport for a flight at 7:20. The latter half of Wednesday was productive, and I managed to negotiate with our client on several key points. I was confident that I would leave with a signed contract the next morning. I checked Joy's whereabouts every few hours and felt relieved to find out she was either at home or at work, but deep down, I knew Joy was having an affair. That evening, I had dinner at the restaurant in my hotel, and at 7:30, I checked Joy's location again. She was somewhere new. Joy was at an address in a prestigious area of the city several miles from our home, her boss Steve's house. It turned out she stayed the night there and went straight to work from his place the next morning. The next few months were tense but surprisingly quick. While we were surviving at home, Joy was aggressively trying to find her way back into my favor. I remained pleasant and non-confrontational but kept my distance. The few times we engaged in sex, it was purely functional. Sometimes you just need to relieve tension. Monitoring Joy, I found out she limited her affair to the times I was away on business trips. After the second trip, I installed 4 video cameras throughout the house, one in the kitchen, living room, guest room, and master bedroom. The only thing I discovered was that whenever I left home, Joy packed enough clothes to stay at Steve's house for the duration of my trip. Our company lawyer recommended a family law attorney for me. Since our children were grown and living separately, our divorce was a simple 50-50 split. Although it was doubtful that a private investigator could obtain any video or photos, since we couldn't intrude on Steve Miller's private life at his home, I was advised to hire one anyway to document Joy's living arrangements while I was out of town. However, no matter how clever the fraudsters may be, most of them make mistakes. My private detective discovered that Joy and Steve enjoyed having sex outdoors in his secluded backyard. I had pictures of Steve and Joy as she sat on the edge of his pool, and there's sex all over the backyard. I had numerous pictures of my cheating wife playing with his very average-sized instrument. It was time to act, so I informed my wife about another business trip. Except for my boss and personal assistant, everyone at work thought I was away. Early Wednesday morning, I left home and had breakfast in town. After the app showed me that Joy had gone to work, I headed home. For 2 days, I carefully packed and sealed cardboard boxes with everything belonging to Joy. Friday morning was supposed to be D-Day, but first, I had to make 3 very difficult phone calls on Thursday evening. Our 3 children ranged in age from 22 to 27. Our youngest daughter had recently graduated from college and was working as a preschool teacher. The 2 older sons were also college graduates and were now working in their fields. The conversations with each of the children were eerily similar in their absurdity. I cried with them and assured them of my love, but informed them that I was going to divorce their mother. When each of them protested that I was going too far, I asked, "Do you want me to send you a video of your mother having sex in the backyard of her lover's house?" They all declined, wisely. Fun gripped me during the 4th call. "Hey Chris, this is an unexpected surprise. How are your meetings going?"
Cagard.
Meetings are like meetings. You know how it is. How's work going? I'm so glad it's Friday because I can't wait for you to come home. It's been a long, lonely week. I hope we can make up a little. Maybe the whole weekend. I noticed right away that Joy didn't answer my question about work, so I assumed she had become a hardened liar over the past few months. Meanwhile, Joy continued, "So to what do I owe the pleasure of your call?" "Well, I have a question for you. It may seem strange, but I'd like an answer. This must be important because you rarely call during work hours. What's your question about? Do you like my smile?" Do I like your smile? What kind of question is that? You know I love your smile. Yes, you've told me that many times. In fact, it was the first thing you ever said to me. Remember that night at the college party? You broke away from your group of girls, came up to me and said, "You have an amazing smile." Then I noticed a sharpness in Joy's voice. "Chris, what's going on?"
I'm worried.
I did. I tried again. I put in a lot of effort when it was necessary to be positive, to be happy. Sometimes it was very hard, but life with the love of my life and 3 wonderful children was worth the effort. Of course. I know. That's one of the things, one of the many things I adore about you. I love your smile, and I love your positive attitude. But what I love the most is that you can stay brave, manly, with that wonderful smile on your beautiful face. I sobbed loudly. I couldn't help it. Despite her lies and recent destructive behavior, I knew Joy loved me. I knew without a doubt that my wife loved me. There was an extreme urgency in her voice, one I knew well, as Joy demanded, Christopher Harrington, what's going on?" When I didn't answer right away, Joy pleaded, "Please tell me. I want to help. What happened?" The love and concern in her voice were genuine. She loved me so deeply, more than ever, and that's what made what I was about to say so difficult. "It's just, I'm not sure I'll ever smile at you again." Tick-tock, tick-tock. I counted 20 seconds. I'm sure a million jumbled thoughts were racing through Joy's mind, but after a few moments, I could sense she was slowly coming to the logical conclusion that I might. "No. You're scaring me, Chris. Please, talk to me." "Unfortunately, Joy, you've caused too much damage, so it's too late for talking now." "Don't say that, darling. Don't say that and never think that. We can always talk." "It's already too late. Any conversation, any discussion, must be based on love, trust, and respect. I know you love me, Joy. I know it. And I love you too, and always will. That's why this is so hard, but I no longer trust you, and I know you don't respect me." Joy started to say something, but I cut her off, "And I can't respect you anymore." With a mocking tone in my voice, I continued, "Joy, go to the living room window." "Go to? Christopher, what are you talking about?" I repeated, "Joy, I asked you to go to the living room window." I felt amusement rising within me. Come on. Get off the lounge by the pool, go through Steve's back door into the kitchen, and walk through the house until you reach the living room window." I heard screams as she realized. "Oh my God. Oh no. He knows, Steve. Oh my God. Chris knows." I waited until I saw Joy through the window. She stood next to the man who, I assumed, was Steve Miller, her lover, her boss, the owner of the house and managing partner of the accounting firm Patterson, Miller, and Lewis. Because of the sunlight reflections in the window, I couldn't see anything except movement and shadows. I was about 25 meters away from the house on its long driveway, so I was sure they clearly saw me standing by the open back door of the small van with the company logo. I had opened it before calling Joy. When Joy and Steve were where I needed them to be, I jumped into the van's cabin, put it in reverse, and pressed the accelerator pedal. The vehicle rolled backward, then picked up speed. Approaching the large, turnaround area in front of the house, I slammed on the brakes sharply. All of Joy's clothes, accessories, belongings, and treasures, which I had carefully packed into 48 large cardboard boxes over 2 days, flew out of the truck bed and rolled down Steve's driveway and lawn. Shifting the gear into park, I leaped out of the van and surveyed the mess I had created. The clothing boxes were somewhat untouched and easy to tidy up. However, the heavier boxes, like the 2 containing Joy's grandmother's porcelain, were destroyed. Pieces from 18 tableware items were shattered and scattered all over the driveway. Joy and Steve moved together from the living room to the porch of the house. Joy was wearing a bikini I had bought her for our 25th anniversary cruise just 2 years ago. Although she still had an amazing body, she hadn't worn thong panties during the cruise. She only wore them for sunbathing in the privacy of our backyard pool and for Steve. Steve was covered in a towel. Joy watched in horror, covering her face with her hands and breathing heavily. Usually, Steve behaved like an alpha male, but that morning he looked much less intimidating. They didn't immediately notice another car parked next to Joy's Mercedes SUV. The lawyer's assistant leaped out of the car and stood before them after a few steps. Extending a large yellow envelope to Joy, he announced, "Joy Harrington, you've been served." He then used his iPhone to take a picture of Joy and turned to Steve. "Stephen Miller, you and Patterson Miller and Lewis have been served." He handed a similar envelope to Steve, took a photo of him, returned to his car, and drove away. For a few moments, nobody moved or said anything. I contemplated jumping into my van and driving away, but I decided to say a few more words before leaving. Although I knew Joy would undoubtedly fight any divorce proceedings tooth and nail, I wanted her to know my state of mind. I shouted through the myriad of boxes separating us. "At the very least, I hope we can all agree that I deserve better than a lying, cheating crap instead of a wife." Joy groaned loudly. After a few heartbeats, I continued, "Steve, call my lawyer and make a very, very generous offer, or I'll do everything in my power to destroy you and your firm." "Joy, just sign the damn papers. I'm done." I turned, jumped into the van, and awkwardly vanished from her life.